Welcome to another Health Talk from Marz. It's out of this world. In today's episode, I'm going to talk to you about leaky gut syndrome, what it is, and how you can tell if you have it. So stay tuned. Did you know that the food that you eat that goes into your intestinal tract is actually outside your body? The intestinal tract has elaborate mechanisms to keep things in the digestive tract, and before it can enter into the bloodstream, it does a careful screening. So there are antibodies, and there's mucus, and there's these tight junctions in the cells that keep things inside the intestinal tract. Until it gets across those epithelial cells, it's actually outside your body. So sometimes this system can break down. When it breaks down and certain molecules go from the intestinal tract into the bloodstream, this is what's known as leaky gut syndrome. And leaky gut syndrome can lead to a whole host of various pathologies, including allergies, autoimmune disease, and even cancers. So leaky gut syndrome is a condition that we've known for many years. What causes leaky gut syndrome? Leaky gut syndrome is an inflammatory response that can happen in the intestinal tract. So various types of medications, such as aspirin, ibuprofen, cortisone, antibiotics, can all lead to an increase in intestinal permeability. We also know that some pesticides or herbicides, such as glyphosate, which is found in Roundup Ready, can cause a separation of the tight junctions inside the intestinal tract. Again, when that happens, certain molecules can get across the intestinal tract into the bloodstream that normally don't get there. It's even possible to develop meningitis from translocation of bacteria from inside the GI tract into the bloodstream and past the blood-brain barrier. So this is something that's really very important to know about and very important to avoid. So we know that antibiotics can cause lots of problems with disruption of your microbiome. A disruption of your microbiome could lead to one area where there's a lack of defense of foods, particles getting across the cell membrane into the bloodstream. So we want to not take antibiotics unless you really need to have them, and you want to take as many precautions as possible when taking antibiotics to prevent this leaky gut syndrome. So is leaky gut syndrome a real thing? Well, we actually have lab tests that can show that leaky gut syndrome does exist. There is a type of sugar molecule called mannitol. Mannitol is a molecule that freely gets absorbed across the intestinal tract. And then there's another sugar called lactulose. Lactulose is a sugar that normally does not get into past the cell membrane of the intestinal tract and actually get into the bloodstream. So there's an administration of a combination of lactulose and mannitol, and then you collect urine for 6 hours. And if you're getting high levels of lactulose, that means that you do have leaky gut syndrome and that there are molecules getting across the intestinal tract into the bloodstream that shouldn't be getting there. So we do know that it is a real thing. So what's the treatment other than avoiding these various agents that may cause problems with inflammation in the GI tract? Well, for one, we know there are certain herbs and foods called demulsants. Demulsants are particular foods or compounds that have a mucilaginous-like consistency and can protect the delicate mucous membranes of the digestive tract. So some of those demulsants are called slippery elm or marshmallow or deglycerized licorice root extract or quercetin. Quercetin is actually a flavonoid that protects against leaky gut syndrome. So there are certain foods that also have this mucilaginous-like protection. One of the most common would be okra. Okra is a food that's not eaten too much, but does have an effect on tightening up those tight junctions and preventing leaky gut syndrome. So in taking antibiotics, one, it's important to really make sure you need to take them. They're often misprescribed. Antibiotics are oftentimes found in various types of foods, especially animal foods, where they put antibiotics in the feed. About 28 million pounds of antibiotics are used in animal agriculture as feed. So chicken, pigs, cows, all are oftentimes given these antibiotics. So if you're consuming these antibiotics, and certainly in higher amounts as a prescription, one of the things that you can do is take some type of probiotic. A probiotic would be something that would actually replenish the lost bacteria from the antibiotics. So that would be Lactobacillus acidophilus. And there's a number of products out there that have good probiotics in them that would help restore some of that microflora. There's also a yeast called Saccharomyces boulardii that can also protect against this leaky gut syndrome that might be caused by the antibiotic. So consider those things. Also, just if you're doing an antibiotic, it would not hurt to take an antioxidant formula that contains tocotrienols, quercetin, vitamin C, zinc, selenium. These compounds all can protect against leaky gut syndrome. And if you're taking an antibiotic, they won't interfere with the antibiotic, but they may actually help prevent some of the side effects caused by the antibiotics. So concerning demulsants, where can you get all these demulsants? There's a number of them. I mentioned slippery elm, deglycyrrhizated licorice root extract, marshmallow, aloe vera. These are all demulsants that can protect the GI tract against leaky gut syndrome. I created a product a number of years ago called Dr. Hubbard's GI Healing Formula. And in this formula, I have all of these demulsants plus a little bit of zinc and also quercetin to help protect those delicate membranes. Dr. Hubbard is a famous naturopathic physician who treats hemorrhoids and lower GI tract problems. And I created this formula for him and also for others that might have this leaky gut syndrome. So that's it for our episode on leaky gut syndrome. If you liked what you heard, click like and subscribe below or tell someone about this podcast. If you want to purchase the Dr. Hubbard's GI Healing Formula, you can go to my website, marznutrition.net, and go check it out. And thanks again for watching another episode of Health Talk from Marz. It's out of this world.